I'm ranking every single Gen 1 Pokemon on a tier list. The original 151 are all incredible, for the most part. So I'm ranking all of them, and I'm including the Megas because where else am I going to talk about them? Now, for some of you who've been around for a while, this is a little different because you can see my whole business. We gotta start with the first, Bulbasaur. Now, Bulbasaur's fine. I'm not someone who picks Bulbasaur, but I'm also not someone who hates Bulbasaur. So I'm gonna put him at a solid A tier. He's fine. I'm just not a grass starter guy, so I never end up picking the grass starters, but compared to Pokemon like Chikorita, night and day difference. Ivysaur is just a better version of Bulbasaur. It's just got that angst. And maybe it's because it's in Smash Bros, but I really like Ivysaur. Venusaur, easiest S tier of all time. I think this is probably one of the best third evolutions for a Pokemon of all time. I love it. This might be a hot take. I think that Mega Venusaur is a little bit worse than the original. The flower on the head just throws me off. Charmander? I like Charmander. I'm not against Charmander at all. I think it's better designed than Ivysaur and Venusaur. I do. Oh, Charmander's overrated. Oh, Charizard's this too shut up. Charmeleon, B tier. I'll be honest, Charmander's great. Charmeleon got a little too much angst for me. Like, look at his face. It just has too much attitude. Charizard, I feel like wherever I put this, I'm gonna get a lot of hate. So D tier. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna put it, I think it's top of A tier. I think it's just a little shy of being S tier. I'm gonna put Mega Charizard X at B tier. I'm not a fan. I don't like it. The black and blue's fine. It's just not that cool. I love that it's black because the like shiny Charizard, one of the best shinies, but it's okay. It's not great. Mega Charizard Y is S tier. This is what Charizard should be. I think it has all of the style of the original Charizard with that spice the newer generations of Pokemon get. Squirtle, easy S tier. I'm a water type guy, so Squirtle is just gonna be peak. I think it's enough said. Look at him. Wartortle, right behind Charmeleon. I just don't love it. It's got angst. Like the way that like a 14-year-old has angst where you just want to push him down the stairs. Blastoise, I gotta put Blastoise right behind Charizard. I love Blastoise. It's my go-to. I build teams around it in Gen 1. I just think it has the weakest design of the three. Mega Blastoise just that was their entire design philosophy. Just give it a big cannon. Caterpie is fine. I'm not gonna sit here and say Caterpie is great. I'm gonna put Caterpie in front of Mega Blastoise because it's fine. It's not great. Metapod is okay. I'm not super into Metapod, but it's not a great design. It's just a big green cocoon. They could have done better, and it's probably just a little too hard, just a smidge. Butterfree is one of those designs where I think it's just on the nose in the perfect way. So I'm gonna put it right behind Charizard in A tier. I think they just nailed it being a butterfly, but also being a Pokemon. Better than Caterpie. Fight me. It's just better than Caterpie. Kakuna, same thing with Metapod, but I like how it looks a little bit better. I'm not gonna sit here and say that either of them are great designs. They're just cocoons, but they're good. Beedrill is same thing as Butterfree. I love how they just took an insect and went, nature was cooking with this one. Mega Beedrill, it's just too pointy. I think they just went a little bit overboard with the points. Honestly, I'm gonna put it right in front of Blastoise. I can't say I even like it better than the baby forms. Pidgey, it's a bird. It's pretty solid. We're gonna put that at top of C tier. It's a bird. Like, what? It's nothing crazy. It's just a bird. Pidgeotto, it's a bigger bird, so it gets a bigger score. I'm gonna put that in front of Mega Beedrill. The bigger the bird, the better. Pidgeot, even bigger bird. I can't emphasize this enough. We need more birds. So I'm gonna put that between Charmeleon and Wartortle. Even bigger bird, Mega Pidgeot. It has to go in front of Pidgeot. It's an even bigger bird. Now, Rattata, S tier? Like, peak S tier? No, it's fine. I'm not gonna say it's that great. I'm gonna put it below Bulbasaur. I like it. I think a purple rat, pretty good idea. I don't know, I just think it stands out. It's one of those Pokemon where I see it and I'm like, hey. Raticate, D tier. Something about this thing, maybe it's its teeth giving me that Timmy Turner vibe. I don't love it. I'm not a fan. Spearow, because they tried to run a fade on Ash and Pikachu, it has to go below Metapod. It's a bird, so it's all right. I just think compared to other bird Pokemon we've gotten, it's okay at best. Fearow. Now hear me out here. Fearow is underappreciated. That big beak, that thing's got girth. I'll tell you that much. We're gonna put that right in front of Charmeleon. I think people hate on this a little too much. Ekans. Now, I'm putting this at the lowest of low because I don't like it. I know that might be hypocritical because I put Rattata so high, but Ekans is it's just lazy to me. I don't know. It's just snake backwards. Not a big fan of it. I don't think anyone's gonna be like, Ekans is the best Pokemon. Now, Arbok, I can appreciate. I like Arbok. I'm gonna put Arbok, I have to put Arbok just below Weedle, if it would let me. I think Arbok is everything that Ekans should have been. It's cool looking, it's got that Cobra aesthetic. I know it's just Cobra backwards, which I trashed Ekans for being, but I enjoy it. Pikachu has to go S tier. I don't think it's possible to put a Pokemon list together and not put Pikachu at S tier. 1, because it's extremely iconic. 2, look how yellow it is. It's incredibly yellow. And 3, it's the face of the entire company. How could you not appreciate that? Now, Raichu is underloved. I think Pikachu gets a lot of credit. I think Raichu deserves more. I would honestly put this out at S tier, but just below the other members of S tier. As a kid, Sandshrew was up there with some of my favorite Pokemon. As I've gotten older, it's still up there, but not as high. I'm gonna put it just below Bulbasaur, but above Rattata. I love it. It's great. Sandslash is just a little bit better than Sandshrew. It has that edginess, but not in an in-your-face way. I just love the claws. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I'm gonna do Nidorans at the same time. Now, I think Nidoran is fine. They're B tier. They're okay. I'm gonna put Nidorino and Nidorina at A tier. It's just a little bit better than Nidoran was, and it's still great. It's got that angst that I love these older Pokemon had, but it still just looks like a natural evolution. I have to put Nidoking and Nidoqueen this high. I don't think it would be fair for me not to. They are absolutely iconic. Look at them. Nidoking specifically is one of my favorite Pokemon from this generation. Maybe not design-wise, but just overall, I use it every time I play it. Clefairy, I don't love Clefairy. I don't hate Clefairy, but I don't think Clefairy's anything that is that great. So I think it's probably just above Kakuna and Metapod. I wouldn't say Clefairy is something I'm going to use ever. Clefable, honestly, is probably it's D tier. Clefable kind of sucks. It just looks like I want to punch it. Like, it would be a great punching bag. I'm not a fan. I've used it once, maybe, in a Nuzlocke, but it's still, even then, it wasn't that great. I think Vulpix and Ninetales are comfortably at S tier. I think they are incredibly designed. Maybe it's because I love Naruto and I love just a nine-tailed fox, but I think they are both just really well designed and they just hit that fire type perfectly. Jigglypuff goes right behind Pikachu. Maybe it's because I love Smash Bros, but come on, it's Jigglypuff. It's iconic, it has a great simple design, and I think in the anime, its singing to make people pass out was just so funny. Wigglytuff looks like a step down. It looks like someone who had a glow up and then just didn't hold that energy. So I'm giving Wigglytuff a mid B tier. Zubat, beyond the idea that Zubat will just jump you at every moment if you're in a cave, I think it has a good design. So I'm gonna put it at low A tier. Golbat, a little bit better than Zubat. I just like how it has a giant mouth. It's pretty great. I think Oddish is over-hated and over-liked. It's somehow just like the most neutral Pokemon of all time. So I'm gonna put it just at top of B. The sheer neutrality of this Pokemon, there's nothing good to say about it. There's also nothing bad. Gloom's drool pisses me off. I don't know what it is. I don't like its face. I don't like it. It looks disgusting. If I had one of those, I would put it in a cage and then put that cage at the bottom of the ocean. Vileplume fixes everything I didn't like about Gloom. It's better than Oddish, so it's gonna be at a low A tier. Paris makes me uncomfortable. It's going down with Gloom. I don't like it. The whole mushroom aesthetic, I'm not a fan of, so it's going right next to Gloom. I don't like it. Parasect, I'm still uncomfortable, but it's a little bit better, and it's better than Clefable, so it's going C tier. If you take a Venonat and you hold it up to Butterfree, there's something suspicious going on here. Tell me these things do not look nearly identical. So just for the sake of that, I'm putting it next to Butterfree. I feel like it just works. I like it. It's a little fuzzball. It's fine. Venomoth, I don't like moths, so I'm gonna put this lower B tier. I wouldn't use it, and I also don't really like it, so lower B. But I will say Venomoth has at least a pretty decent design. Diglett, S tier. It's great. It's Diglett. If you have a problem with Diglett, you have a problem with me, and I suggest you let that one marinate. Dugtrio, it's just more Digletts. How could it be worse? Pokemon had this thing this generation where they were like, I got a good design, let's just make 3 of them. Meowth is iconic. It's not as iconic as Jigglypuff in my opinion, even though it was around for a lot longer, but I think that the talking Meowth in the anime was really good. So it has to be S tier, based off of the iconic design, and just because I love it, because I'm a cat guy. Persian, even though I'm a cat guy, I don't love that much. I think it's fine. I'm gonna put it below Vileplume. I think it's a fair spot for it. Oh, my boy, Psyduck. Better than Squirtle. I love Psyduck. I honestly think it's one of the best Pokemon designs of all time. Look at it. It's a confused duck. Golduck, they should have just kept Psyduck. Have it be like Farfetch'd where it doesn't evolve. I'm gonna put it right below Persian. It has a worse design than its pre-evolution, so it can't be anywhere near it. Mankey's fine. I don't think anybody's gonna sit there and say Mankey's the best, so we're gonna put Mankey at middle of B tier. I don't think anyone's gonna sit here and argue that. Primeape is better than Mankey. I'll just put it right above Mankey. They're practically the same. Now, I think people love Growlithe. I don't think he's that bad, but I don't think he's that good. So I'm gonna put him right below Zubat. I like his design. I don't love it. Arcanine, S tier. Say something about Arcanine being bad. I respect your opinion, but I still think it's S tier. I don't like the Poliwhirl line, so I'm gonna take Poliwag and I'm gonna put it lower B tier. I'm not gonna sit here and say that Poliwag is bad, but it's not great. Poliwhirl, A tier. I like Poliwhirl. I think it's just a perfect Pokemon design. It doesn't do anything great to make it stand out all that much, but it also doesn't do anything to make it be offensive. Poliwrath is worse than Poliwhirl, so I'm gonna put it right next to Golduck because it can't be near Poliwhirl, because Poliwrath is just a buff Poliwhirl. Now, as much as I hate Abra because it always dips on me, it has a pretty solid design. So I'm gonna put Abra at upper B tier. Kadabra, S tier. That is just how you do an evolution. It takes everything that was great about Abra and just adds onto it. And even better is Alakazam. Alakazam is just a better Kadabra, and it's one of the best trilogy of Pokemon evolutions ever. And even better is Mega Alakazam because he has 5 spoons. What's better than 1 spoon? 5. Now, Machop is one of those Pokemon where I just think it looks dumb, like unintelligent. It's not like a smart Pokemon. It looks like it's generally struggling in school. That being said, it's just got like that happy dude energy, so I'm gonna put it A tier. Machoke seems like it's violent, and I don't love that, so it's just a little bit worse than Poliwrath. Machamp, though, the 4 arms, easy S tier. Maybe it's because I didn't have friends to trade, so it took me a while to get one, but Machamp was an incredible design. Bellsprout's the best Pokemon this generation. Am I glazing? Absolutely. Try and tell me that Bellsprout isn't good. If you don't like Bellsprout, leave a comment and I'll reply to it. Weepinbell, honestly worse than Psyduck, so I'm gonna put it just between Dugtrio and Diglett. It's not bad, but it's not Bellsprout, like the best Pokemon. And Victorybell, as someone who loves Bellsprout, I don't love Victorybell. I'm gonna put it below Oddish. I just think it loses that cute design Bellsprout had, and that's the entire point of Bellsprout. Tentacool is fine. I think it's cool. I like the little psychic orbs on its head, but I think Tentacruel is better. I think of the two, it's not really close. I think Tentacruel is just better. So I'm gonna put that at the middle of A tier. Geodude is iconic, but annoying. I have to put Geodude at A tier. I think it looks great. As a sentient rock with arms, I don't think we're gonna get a better sentient rock Pokemon. Graveler is one of those Pokemon where I'm between S tier and D tier. I like it, but as a Pokemon design goes, it's not good. It just is bad. I like it because it's bad. It's like getting a food where you can't stop eating it even though it's terrible. So I'm gonna put it at C tier. Golem, right between Kadabra and Machamp. I always wanted one of these as a kid, and I can't give up that dream now. Ponyta is one of those Pokemon where I'm never gonna say no to having one on my team, but I don't think it's that incredible. So I'm gonna put it at middle of A tier. Rapidash is just a better Ponyta, but it's not as good as something like Butterfree is. So I'm gonna have to put it at top of A tier. Slowpoke, it's got that Psyduck treatment, but just not in the same way. So I'm gonna put it at upper middle A tier. Slowbro is somehow even better, and I'm gonna put it just above Slowpoke. I just like how unbothered it looks. Mega Slowbro, I don't love. I don't like how the shell is just entirely consumed it. I'm gonna put it at middle of B tier. Magnemite is fine. I'm gonna put it right in the middle of A because I think it's decently designed. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's bad either. Magneton, I'm gonna put just above Sandshrew. I used to dislike Magneton a lot, but as the years have gone on, I've liked it a lot more. So I think upper A tier is probably where it's gonna land. Farfetch'd D tier. I'm not a fan. I don't love it. It just is, I like how it comes with its own seasoning. That's fine. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say I love Doduo. It's fine. But I also am not gonna say its design is bad by any means. So I'm gonna put it at lower A tier. I think it's good. Dodrio is one of those Pokemon where I think it's better than the sum of its parts. I don't think the idea of a 3-headed bird is that crazy. But again, it's a big bird, so it's going upper A tier. So I added another tier just to put Seal. I think on its own, terrible design. I hate its face. Everything about it, We don't like Seal here. Dugong is better than Seal, so it goes just out of the trash. It climbed its way narrowly out of the trash. Grimer's fine. I think Grimer gets a little too much hate for being a liquid pile of trash. Is it a great design? Not really. Is it an incredible design? Still no. So I'm gonna put it at middle of B tier, right below Mankey and Primate. Muck makes me physically uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I need to throw up a little bit. Still better than the likes of D tier, because it makes me feel something. So I'm gonna put it at middle of C. Shelder, my first shiny Pokemon of all time, gets an easy S tier. Look at its tongue. I love it. This is what Seal should have been. Cloyster, now hear me out. A tier. I like how it looks. Now don't crucify me for that. It looks suspicious, but I had a shiny one, so I'm gonna be biased. This entire Pokemon set is gonna be an S tier. It just gets better and better. Ghastly, lower S tier. Haunter, middle S tier. Gengar, upper S tier. That entire trilogy of Pokemon, that entire evolution line, incredible. Mega Gengar, I think, gets a lot of love, and I'm actually not a big fan. I think they struck gold with the first three, and they didn't need to make a Mega. I'm not gonna be upset that one of my favorite Pokemon got a Mega, but I never want to use it. So I'm gonna put it at upper A. Onix, fittingly, right next to Cloyster. Drowsy is one of those Pokemon where I don't love it, but I don't hate it. So I think I have to put it at the middle of B tier. Hypno is fine. I know it's doing some weird stuff, but I'm never gonna be opposed to it, but I'm never gonna want it. I don't like the white fluff around its neck and how it just carries a rock on a string. I'm gonna put it just below Pidgey. Krabby. Talk about naming a Pokemon fittingly. S tier. Krabby is peak. Kingler, a worse Krabby. It's not as good, but it's not terrible. So I'm gonna put it lower middle A tier. Voltorb, I don't like Voltorb. I'll be honest, C tier. And Electrode is the same way, it's just worse because it loses that Pokeball aesthetic, so it's lower C tier. Execute, I like eggs, not a fan of this one, so it's getting C tier. Executor, I actually really like. I think this gets a solid A tier, just above Onix. Cubone is fine. I don't think it's great, but I like how sad it is. So just to make it feel better, it's getting a lower A tier. Marowak, I'm not gonna sit here and say is that great, but I'm not gonna say it's bad. So I'm gonna put Marowak just below Drowsy. I don't love its design, but I love how it has a bone with it wherever it goes. These Pokemon have always been divisive to me. Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan are both C tier. They're just fighters, and not great ones at that. They're those Pokemon that exist, and I'm fine with, but I'm never gonna use them. Lickitung is just scraping out of the trash. There is a ratio of how much tongue is acceptable, where Shelder has the perfect amount, but Lickitung is doing way too much. Coughing is one of those Pokemon where I think that everyone gives it a bad rap. I don't think anyone talks about how good of a design it is, but I also don't think people say that it's bad. That being said, it's an easy B tier, upper B, right below Oddish. Wheezing is just a little bit better than Coughing is. I like how it looks like it's actually in distress. Rhyhorn is one of those Pokemon I never have loved. I like rhinos, but this is not it for me. Rhydon, I like. I think Rhydon is actually a good design. As much as I don't like when they make Pokemon bipedal for no reason, I think this was a good use of it. So we're gonna put this at middle of A tier. Chansey is a terrible Pokemon design, just not great. I don't like how it's an egg that carries an egg around with it like this is some home ec class. We're putting it right below the Fighting Brothers. I like how Tangela looks like forbidden spaghetti, so it's going in S tier. I feel like it would taste fine. Kangaskhan is fine. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's terrible, so I'm gonna put it right in the middle of B tier. Mega Kangaskhan is the laziest Mega they have ever made, so I'm putting it at the bottom of C tier. It doesn't make it worse, but it doesn't add anything at all. Horsey is a little on the nose for me design-wise, but in a good way. Not as good as Krabby, but not as bad as anything else we've gotten, so I'm gonna put it right at the top of B tier. Seadra is just better than Horsey. I think it has that spunk that it was missing, so I'm gonna put it right in the lower middle of A tier. Goldeen, lower C tier. Same with Seaking. They're both just fish. And they're not even great fish. Staryu, S tier. Starmie, higher S tier. Look, I'm a sucker for geometry, and these stars are where it's at. Mr. Mime is somehow worse than Seal. I don't like it. It makes me physically uncomfortable. No one can tell me Scyther is not one of the best Pokemon from this generation. It's got giant scissor hands. What are you saying? Now, I'm a big fan of Jinx. I want to put it here, but I feel like the comments are going to roast me for putting it next to the Cloyster and Onix. So it's going to be lightly below Magneton. Electabuzz and Magmar are going to be the bottom of S tier along with Pinsir. These three are incredible Pokemon designs. They're not the best, but they are definitely S tier. Mega Pinsir isn't great, so we're gonna put it at upper C. Tauros is a cow. We don't need anything else. It's going right next to Krabby for being spot on, but also still looking like a Pokemon. Magikarp's great. I think it looks like pretty perfect, but I have to put it just below Charizard. It's not as good as Charizard is, but it's not as bad as anything else on the list. I have to put Gyarados at S tier. It just is one of the most iconic Pokemon designs we're ever gonna get. Mega Gyarados, I'm fine with. I've never been a super big fan of it, but it's okay. I'll put it right next to regular Kangaskhan. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the sum of its parts. Lapras is one of the easiest S tiers of this list. I think it's great. I don't think it's one of the best designs we've ever gotten, but I also don't think it is anywhere near being bad. Ditto's iconic, and I love its face. And I abuse these things when I'm breeding my Pokemon, so I absolutely have to put it at S tier. Eevee, right next to Pikachu. They have their own games together. It's incredible. Vaporeon, D tier. And you all know why. All of you. Jolteon, I love Jolteon. Don't get me wrong, I love Jolteon, but I'm not gonna sit here and say Jolteon is the best of the evolutions, so I'm putting it in middle of A. Flareon, I will say though, is slightly worse than Jolteon, but also worse than Ponyta, so we're gonna put it right there in that general realm. Get Porygon into upper S tier, just in front of Scyther. There's something about it being a glitch that's incredible. And that one episode of the Pokemon anime that, like, I'm fairly certain hurt a lot of people was great if you can survive watching it. Ammonite is fine. Lord Helix, you know, don't get me wrong. So I'm gonna put it at, like, B tier. Omastar, I think, is a much better version. I'm gonna put that S tier. I feel like S tier is a little inflated, but this generation had so many good Pokemon, I can't say it was that bad. Kabuto's not great, but it's not terrible. I'm gonna put it right below Lord Helix. Kabutops is just as good as Scyther. I think anything with long scissor hands is great. So I'm gonna put it comfortably at top of S tier because in my opinion, it's one of the best designs of a fossil Pokemon we've ever gotten. Right behind Aerodactyl, which is the best fossil design we've ever gotten. I think it has everything that makes a good fossil Pokemon in this design. Mega Aerodactyl isn't something that I think is that great, but is definitely not bad. So I'm gonna put it just below Charizard at top of A. Snorlax, easy upper S tier, right in front of Gengar. You can't tell me Snorlax isn't one of the best Pokemon designs of all time. Look at it. You just want to give it a hug. It looks like it's built of Tempur-Pedic mattresses. Now, all three of the legendary birds are going to go together because I think they are peas in a pod and I think all of their designs are just solid overall. That being said, they're going to go in the upper A tier. They're all gonna go right above Mega Aerodactyl in this specific order. Now, Articuno, my favorite of the legendary bird. Zapdos, I like a lot. Not my favorite though. And Moltres is really good design, but it looks a little too spicy for my blood. Now, the same thing with the legendary birds. I'm gonna put at the bottom of S tier, the pseudo-legendary trio for this generation. I'm gonna put Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite at the bottom of S tier. They're not bad looking at all, but I don't think they're anywhere as good as any of these other Pokemon as far as design goes. Mewtwo, S tier. I mean, come on. It's so great. Mega Mewtwo X, D tier. I don't like Mega Mewtwo X. There's something about it I genuinely do not like. Mewtwo's whole thing is that he's good with psychic abilities, and to make him buff wasn't a great call. Mega Mewtwo Y, though, easy S tier. Now, I played Pokemon X more than I did Pokemon Y, and I was always jealous I couldn't have Mega Mewtwo Y. It's exactly what a Mega Mewtwo should look like. And last but not least, we have Mew, who's one of the most iconic Pokemon of all time and rightly deserves a spot just below Charizard. Now, this is objectively a opinionated list, so I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm right, except for one Pokemon, which is Bellsprout at the top. That has to be at the top of everybody's list. But let me know what you're feeling in the comments, and thank you for watching. I hope that you and your family have an incredible day, and if you like anything that you saw here, please consider subscribing.